Good day, my fellow listeners. Welcome to this hour. We are here to have a short clip video on light energy. And ordinarily, when we talk about energy, we say that energy is the ability or capacity to do work. But when we're talking about energy, we have various forms of energy. We talk about light energy, we talk about sound and whatever. But here we are to look at light what? Energy. And when we are talking about light energy, we should know that light is a visible form of energy that creates sensation of vision. I can say that light is a visible form of what? Energy, called luminous energy. Light is a visible form of energy called luminous what? Energy. Here, when we say light, light creates sensation of vision. Light creates sensation of vision, enabling us to see objects or things around our environment. So when we are talking about light, you must know that light is a transverse electromagnetic wave. It's a transverse electromagnetic wave. It does not require material medium for propagation. You see? So light travels through vacuum. Now when we talk about the fastest thing on earth, we are talking about light. Light, the speed of light in air is 3.0 times 10 raised to the power 8 meters per second. This is the speed of light in air. So when you are talking about the speed of light in what? In air. So we must know that light on its own, listen to me, we have sources of light. Where do we have light? So when we talk about sources of light are called luminous bodies. Bodies that emit light. They give light on their own. Such bodies, we call them what? Luminous what? Bodies. For example of such bodies, when we're talking about luminous bodies, I can say the sun is an example, it's a good example. We talk about the sun, we talk about the stars, we talk about fireflies, we talk about candle flame, we talk about torchlight, we talk about electric bulb. Are you getting me now? We talk about electric bulb and there are many others like that. You understand? So when we talk about sources of light, all these I listed, they are called what? Luminous what? Bodies. Bodies that emit what? Light. They give their own what? Light. Are you getting now? That is what we call sources of what? Light. But here, when we talk about sources of light can also be natural or artificial. That's one thing. Sources of light can be what? Natural. It can also be what? Artificial. When we are talking about sources of light, like natural sources of light, for example, I can talk about the sun. I can talk about the stars. I can talk about fireflies, and there are many others. When we talk about natural sources of what? Light. But when we now look at artificial, this one they are made by man. For example, we can talk about the candle flame. Are you getting now? We talk about a candle flame, we talk about electric bulb, we talk about torchlight, car headlamp. There are so many others like that. So all these are what we call sources of what? Light. They can be natural, they can be what? Artificial. But when we now talk about non-sources of light, we are referring to non-luminous bodies. Because if we say that luminous bodies are sources of light, yes, when we now say non-sources of light, we are referring to non-luminous what? Bodies. Body that does not give light. Rather, they what? They reflect light. Bodies that reflect light. For example, our face, our eyes, the page of our books, bricks, wood, You can talk about war. All these are what? Non-luminous what? Bodies. You understand? So when we talk about non-luminous bodies, we are talking about non-what? Sources of what? Light. They never give light. Rather, they reflect light, like I say. Now here we want to talk about, as we go now, we now want to look at transmission of light. Transmission of what? Light. Now when light shines on a body, part of the light are transmitted through the body. Another part are what? Reflected. While the remaining part, the rest of the other part are what? Are absorbed. I say when we talk about transmission of light, I say when light shines on a body, some part of the light are reflected. Like as I said, some parts are reflected, some parts are transmitted through the body, the remaining parts are what? Are absorbed. Some parts are transmitted through the body, some parts are reflected, while the remaining part are absorbed by the body. So that is now. But now I want you to know that a body that allow a large amount of light to pass through them, bodies that allow a large amount of light to pass through them. Are you getting now? So when we want to look at it, we want to look at transmission of light. Now when we are talking about another part is reflected, while the remaining part are what? Absorbed. Now, the amount of light that passes through a body depends on the nature of the body. The amount of light that passes through a body depends on the nature of the what? The body. When I say nature of the body, the nature can be what? Transparent, it can be translucent, it can be opaque. These three things, translucent, transparent, opaque, these are what? The nature of bodies. Are you getting that? Now, when I say transparent bodies, transparent bodies are bodies that allow a large amount of light to pass through them. For example, like when we are talking about transparent body now, objects are seen clearly through them. For example, we can talk about clean glasses. We can talk about clean water. You know what I'm talking about? All these are examples of what? Transparent what? Bodies. But when we talk about translucent bodies are bodies that does not allow a large amount of light. They allow a very small amount of light to pass through them. An object are not seen clearly through translucent bodies. Example of translucent bodies, I can talk about deep glasses, frosted glass, tissue papers. All these are examples of what? Translucent what? Bodies. Here we now talk about opaque. Opaque are bodies that never allow light to pass through them. For example, we can talk about wood, bricks. Are you getting now? I talk about wood, bricks, and many others like that, opaque bodies. These bodies, they act as an obstacle to the direction of light. They act as a blockage to the direction of light. So they never allow light to pass through what? Them. That is what we call what? Opaque bodies. While another aspect, we want to talk about rays of light. We want to talk about ray of light. A ray of light is a path along which light energy travel. A path which light energy travel is what we call rays of light. For example, if I want to give an example of light ray, diagrammatically, I can represent it like this. I can call a ray, I can draw a diagram like that. I will put an arrow here. This is an example of a ray traveling. This is a ray of light. You understand? So this is a ray. When we want to use an example, I want to show you an example of ray. This is what we call a ray of light. Ray of light. Look at it. Ray. Ray of light. This is a ray of light. Why the bundle of rays? When we talk about bundles, combination of rays, we call them beams. So I said beam. A beam of light is a bundle of rays. Combination of what? Rays traveling in the same direction. Are you getting it? That is what we call beam of light. And beam of light can be three types. There are three types of beam. There are three types of what? Beam. We have convergent beam, we have divergent beam, and we have parallel beam. Let me draw them on the board for you. Now, we talk about parallel beam. These are parallel beam. Parallel what? Beam. Look at it. All these are parallel beam. These are parallel beam. When we now say convergent beam, look at them here. This is what we call convergent beam. We call this convergent beam. Look at it. Why would we say divergent beam? Look at it here. We have it like this. Like this. Look at it here. All these are divergent. This is divergent beam. This convergent beam. This is a parallel beam. Now, when we talk about parallel beam, when we talk about parallel beam, these are bundles of beam traveling parallel without touching each other. Now, this parallel beam, they don't meet, but they meet at infinity. Take note. Parallel beam, they meet at infinity. That is parallel what? Beam. And their parallel beam are produced by searchlight. They are produced by what? Search what? Light. But if we now come to convergent beam, they spread out from the source and come together at a point. Convergent what? Beam. And this convergent beam, they are produced by hand lengths. Hand what? Lengths. Why? When you come here, divergent beam, they spread out from a source. From the same source. Look at it. For example, when we talk about torchlight, example of it, torchlight. If this is our torch, look at it now. You see, when the light comes out from your torchlight, you know it's spread out like that. All these are convergent what? All these are divergent beam. So torchlight can give you divergent what? Beam. So from here, I want to be looking at what? Rectilinear propagation of light. Now we want to look at rectilinear propagation of light. Now, when we talk about rectilinear propagation of light is simply a phenomenon that light travels in what? A straight line. And it has been what? Observed through an experiment that light travels in what? A straight line. But light traveling in a straight line has to what? Natural what? Effect to humanity. So the two natural effects of the rectilinear propagation of light is what? The formation of what? Shadow and eclipse. Formation of shadow. Here we want to be talking about rectilinear propagation of light. Look at it on the board. We have one called rectilinear propagation of light. Rectilinear propagation of light is simply a phenomenon whereby light travels in a straight line. And light traveling in a straight line has two natural effects on humanity. These two effects are the two effects produced by this rectilinear propagation of light. You will be asked, maybe JAM, WAEC, any exam you are writing, they might ask you,
that what are the two natural effects produced by the rectilinear propagation of light. The two natural effects are what? Formation of shadow and eclipse. Formation of shadow and eclipse is as a result of rectilinear propagation of what? Light. Are you getting me now? So I will advise you to subscribe. In our next class, we'll be talking about what the formation of shadow, PO camera, eclipse. Are you getting me? I want you to subscribe.